The shark net debate reignited after 2 whales were caught up in them off the Gold Coast. 2 men killed in a tandem skydive. The Prime Minister in Queensland defending the decision to shortchange the state in Cyclone Debbie recovery funding. A massive sinkhole swallowing up homes, a boat and cars. And thousands take off in the 96-kilometre Kokoda Challenge.
This is 9 News Queensland.
Good evening. Crews have performed a delicate rescue operation in a desperate bid to save 2 humpback whales trapped in shark nets off the Gold Coast. They managed to free the mother, but the calf did not survive, reigniting calls to have the deadly nets removed. Hayley, what happens now?
Well, until a few minutes ago, there was a contractor out there and he was already fixing those shark nets. Now, today was the first rescue of this whale season and we still have a few months to go. So SeaWorld operators are really hoping that we don't see a repeat in the weeks to come.
Yeah, certainly not. Thanks, Hayley. It should have been the perfect adventure, a tandem skydive with an experienced instructor on a clear day. But a jump has ended in tragedy, with 2 men killed instantly after crash landing on a private property. The bad blood between the Queensland and federal governments has worsened, with claims communities still recovering from Cyclone Debbie have been left shortchanged. The Deputy Premier says she's gutted by Canberra's decision to fund only a fraction of the rebuilding costs. The Police Commissioner is stepping in to stop a gun-toting cop who pulled his firearm on a speeding driver from clearing his name. Live to Shannon Marshall-McCormack. Shannon, what does the Commissioner want to do?
Well, Alison, just last month, veteran cop Stephen Flanagan successfully won the right to have his conviction set aside and get a fresh hearing. All
right, Shannon, thank you. Let's go to Sam Kuchiara now. Sam, police say they've busted open a southeast crime syndicate. What have they found?
The whole range of things, Alison, including drugs, weapons and counterfeit cash in one of these raids.
All right, Sam, thank you. A man has survived a 15-metre fall from the Kangaroo Point cliffs. The 20-year-old man had been taking photos of the city with friends. The Prime Minister says he hopes for a fast resolution to fill the Senate seat vacated after the sudden resignation of Green Senator Scott Ludlam. Questions remain about whether Mr Ludlam could be forced to pay back his Senate wages, given he was never technically eligible to serve. At least 3 people have been killed and more than a dozen injured after flames tore through an apartment tower in Hawaii. There were chilling echoes of London's Grenfell Tower disaster, with authorities revealing the high-rise building was not fitted with sprinklers. US President Donald Trump has returned home to fresh revelations about the meeting between his son and a Russian lawyer. A Russian-American lobbyist has now come forward saying he was also in the room when Trump Jr. went digging for dirt on Hillary Clinton. The Australian Medical Association has revealed more than half the doctors in public hospitals are working shifts, which place them at significant risk of fatigue. Police want to speak with 2 people caught on security footage around the same time an apartment was robbed in Brisbane's north. A growing number of child abuse and neglect cases are caused by their parents' addiction to the deadly drug ice. It's just one of the alarming findings that show Queensland's child safety problem is getting worse. Just ahead, an almighty sinkhole eats up everything in its path. Homes, driveways, even a boat goes under. Tourists under attack, stabbed by a stranger who swam up to the beach. Thousands of young trekkers push to the limits in the Gold Coast hinterland as they tackle the distance of the Kokoda track. And traffic jam free, a different kind of rush hour on the daily commute. A second teenager has been arrested after a spate of acid attacks in London. And commuters have taken the roundabout way to the office as part of the annual Tube to Work Day. It's tough tearing teenagers away from screens, but new research has revealed the surprising reading habits of children and the benefits it's having on their health. That story is coming up a little later in the bulletin. But first, everything's on the line for these young athletes. Up next, we are there as they prepare to take on the best in the world. A traffic crash on a major highway leads to a grim discovery in a car. Donald Trump's making friends in France, but what had the French president grinning? And meet the man helping feed nature's fussiest eaters. Some of the country's best up-and-coming athletes are on the verge of the biggest event of their careers. 75 of them have spent the last 2 days training on the Gold Coast in preparation for the Youth Commonwealth Games. Homicide detectives are investigating after a woman's body was discovered in a car on a major highway. It was a colourful show of patriotism in Paris, the city bathed in blue, white and red to celebrate Bastille Day. Spare a thought for the thousands of trekkers who are braving chilly temperatures and utter exhaustion tonight as part of the Kokoda Challenge. They're about 11 hours into the cross-country event and must get it done before 39 hours tick over. He's the man responsible for keeping almost all of America's koalas alive. The creatures are increasingly struggling to survive in the wild here, but in the US zoos they're thriving, and it's all thanks to an Aussie farmer. After the break, when high-speed getaways go wrong, but you won't believe what happens next. Pollies turn brawlers, grabbing each other's throats and throwing chairs. The surprise reading habits of Aussie kids revealed and how parents can help. And why the government wants to ban visitors to this southeast animal rescue farm. A small charity that rehabilitates injured farm animals is at risk of shutting up shop after the government declared it's going to ban visitors. Farm Animal Rescue has been told it's their responsibility to fork out hundreds of thousands of dollars to build a new road. Taiwan's parliament descended into chaos when a huge brawl erupted between lawmakers. Parts of China have been pounded by heavy rain and fierce thunderstorms. CCTV has captured the moment a stolen car slammed into a tree and flipped in Michigan. Which former Queensland Origin player is launching an NRL comeback? Details are next. Plus, a loudmouth fan at Wimbledon gets put in his place by a Grand Slam legend. A quest for the perfect photo ends up costing more than $250,000.
And the rain's getting heavier here on the beach at Broad Beach, but how's our Sunday shaping up? Well, I'll have all the weather and the full beach and surf report for you coming up soon.
"11 years after making his NRL debut with the Broncos, Dave Taylor is fighting to keep his career alive. But the former Maroons forward may be handed a lifeline after helping Canberra stay in finals contention. The end of the Reds' dismal season has been marked with a 23-point loss to the Highlanders in Dunedin. Roger Federer will head into his 11th Wimbledon final, boasting an incredible statistic. The Swiss sensation hasn't dropped a set all tournament, making him the huge favourite over Croatian Marin Cilic. Federer set up the showdown after a tough semi-final against Czech Tomas Berdych. The Tour de France is heating up in a big way, with Fabio Aru holding a 6-second lead over race favourite Chris Froome heading into the final 8 stages. And finally, a heckler at Wimbledon has been forced to back up his words after urging Kim Clijsters to fire a body serve. The spectator was invited to test himself against the Grand Slam winner. But Alison, if he didn't speak up, we wouldn't have seen that amazing footage.
What a great story for him. Thanks, Tom. Up next, the reading habits of Aussie kids revealed, and Luke has the weather details. Luke, is this rain going to stick around tomorrow?
Yeah, it will, Alison. It'll stay around tonight and early tomorrow morning, but we will see some sunshine for our Sunday. All the weather and the full beach and surf report for you coming up next.
Teenagers are turning off books in favour of excess screen time, putting their literacy development at risk. But perhaps surprisingly, new research has revealed younger children haven't yet abandoned the printed word. It was the perfect place to snap a photo, or so she thought. A gallery visitor in LA crouched to pose in front of an exhibit, but took a tumble, sending the artworks flying. And Luke is now here with the weather. Luke, we know you're getting wet there, but where else is the rain falling tonight?
Well, the heaviest is actually in the city. Around Runcorn at the moment, Alison, we're seeing some very heavy falls. And in fact, the city's picked up about 12 millimetres this afternoon. If we have a look at the current radar, you can see where that rain's falling. I haven't been the luckiest, I've got to be honest with you. We've seen not too much rain here on the Gold Coast at all, but right now is the heaviest that it's been, particularly around Broadbeach. So we'll end up with a good couple of millimetres here on the Gold Coast and more heading our way tomorrow as well. If we have a look at the current temps, it wasn't too cold of a day this morning. 11 degrees it dropped to in the city. Most of the areas in the southeast were in the double digits. Warmed up to 25 in the city. Ipswich dropped down to just 6 this morning, and Warwick got down to 3. And a couple of degrees above average here on the Gold Coast today. We got up to 24 degrees, and the Sunshine Coast reached 25. And you can see we're a chance of morning rain tomorrow if we have a look at the map in southeast Queensland. A cold front's going to bring a very windy and cold, wet Sunday on the way for southern parts of South Australia and Western Australia, but a high in the east is going to bring some freezing temps to the ACT. Having a look at the capitals, you can see Canberra tomorrow dropping down to -6. Got some early frost there as well, and see some really good snowfalls in the alpine areas tomorrow. A fine day for both Sydney and Melbourne. Perfect North Queensland Sunday on the way. No rain, only light winds, so really good for boaties if you're looking to get off to the reef. And further south, it's going to remain fine in the west for Longreach, but there is a slight chance of some morning rain in Roma and a few showers along the coast as well. In our backyard, we're going to have rain to start with and then just a partly cloudy day. Heaviest falls are going to be in Toowoomba and also on the Sunshine Coast, where we could see up to 10 millimetres in the gauge, and a pretty nice afternoon on the way. That's the good news for us. And only light winds, so a pretty good day on the water. West to northwesterly winds shifting southeast later in the morning, and seas below a metre. An 80% chance of rain for the city tomorrow. 6 millimetres forecast and getting up to 25 degrees. There's the 7-day forecast. And if you're heading down the beach, tomorrow Arvo will be better. Let's have a look. Worth getting up nice and early this morning. Nice conditions on both the coasts. You can see barely a breath of breeze and not a cloud in the sky down here on the Gold Coast. Awesome stuff.
And that's our news this Saturday. From the team, good night.